Welcome to the 2021 Inclusive Education Expo. My name is Ian May, Director of Disability Policy and Programs in the Department for Education, South Australia. This is the 18th Inclusive Education Expo, put together by members from the Special Education Resource Unit and Student Support Services. And this year we've got parents, students, teachers and educators, and allied health professionals all talking about their viewpoints of inclusive education, the evidence and the research. Last year we had all our presentations online, really high viewing rate. We want to do that this year again, have them up for many months for you to use. Really thank DAS for our acknowledgement of country and how they have interpreted and personalised it for this Inclusive Education Expo. So viewers, I really hope this adds value to your understanding of inclusive education and what we can be doing in our preschools and schools. So thank you for your time, thank you for our presenters, and let's go forward with a great 2021 Expo again. As part of the opening of the 2021 Inclusive Education Expo, I'm joined by Stuart Kitto, who's a Senior Advisor in the Disability Policy section and comes from a wealth of experience as an educator and has been looking at the research around inclusion. So what have you been doing recently, Stuart?
So recently I've been working with some of our schools to see if we can understand more effectively about how we help schools implement inclusive approaches in our schools.
And as an educator, where have you been working recently?
So my background as a principal was in Whyalla and Woomera and Tintinara and Murray Bridge. So I've had a lot of time spent in country areas that don't necessarily have the access to the city that those of us nearer to the CBD have. So I'm excited about the opportunity that this Expo has for our country schools to access it when they need it and where they need it, rather than it being here all in one place. It's out there in the cloud.
So Stuart and I want to walk through a few of our thinkings around inclusive education in 2021. Now, starting off with, we'd like to orientate to the work of the Action Plan, which really lists inclusive education as one of the key reforms for the department. Really exciting. There are a number of key actions that are listed. It's really interesting that one of the parts of the action plans uses the terminology for the first time, 1 in 4 students with functional needs. Where has that terminology come from? It's actually come from the nationally consistent collection of data, because what is the collection showing us in South Australia, Stuart?
So we've been seeing over the last few years that about a quarter of our kids are identified by our educators as requiring some kind of deliberate adjustment to their learning to help them achieve their full potential.
It leads us to think that sometimes in the past we've thought that number is a lot lower than we've anticipated. We've actually been using in previous times, verified disability, but we're morphing into this 1 in 4 functional needs language, which is a wider representation of the work that educators are doing in preschools and schools. Stuart, what's the research around how education systems are growing inclusive education? What are we learning from our colleagues in other jurisdictions and from academics in this field?
So probably the biggest piece of learning that we've had is that inclusion is everyone's business. It's not just something that happens at the central office level, and it's not just something that happens at the classroom level. It takes everyone. All of us in our system need to be thinking inclusively if we're going to be able to truly be a community where everyone belongs and everyone belongs equally.
It's often said we're on a journey, and I really do see we're on a journey, and I see lots of excitement happening in our preschools of rethinking and reimagining about our approaches to the students with 1 in 4 functional needs. Are you seeing similar sorts of things in your work about visiting our preschools and schools?
Definitely. There's a lot of creativity in our schools.
Yeah.
And when schools have the time to stop and think about what they're doing and how they can bring more people in, our educators in this state are brilliant at finding the right solution for their context. We know that there are a range of solutions, that every context is different, that what works 5 minutes from Rundle Mall may not work 500 kilometres. But we know that the educators that we've got around the state are working really hard and thinking about how do we do this? How do we make this right for South Australia in this place and this time?
And I think that's one of the powers of this Expo, because it really showcases some of these approaches and thinkings around the best practice and the approaches that some of our preschools and schools are taking. I remember at the end of last year we did some work with Deloitte Access and Economics, which we asked them some research questions. We asked, how are we going in South Australia with inclusive teaching and learning? What are other approaches that other jurisdictions are taking? And what should we be thinking about? And they came up with a number of thoughts that we should be considering. What was your takeaway from what Deloitte told us in our South Australian context?
So I guess the driver that I saw strongest was about the importance of culture.
Yes.
And the importance of quality learning. When we have quality learning in our classrooms, that is what enables us to have inclusive classrooms.
One of my big takeaways was what they said around practice guides, and that is now listed in the 1 in 4 reforms in the action plan. It's one of the deliverables that we've committed to as a department, because there seemingly is now a strong will for inclusion and teachers wanting to do the best approaches for the 1 in 4 students, but they're asking more about the methodology, the how, provide the evidence, provide the advice around that. And so we're doing a piece of work in that department right now on this, and hopefully in 2022 we're going to have much better practice guide available for our teachers. The research around inclusion, what are some of the key messages that you've learned from your piece of work in 2021?
That's a really interesting question, Ian. I think, and the more work I've been doing in schools, the more I've realised that it really comes back to our vision and our values, and getting our systems to support our vision and our values. When we get alignment and we're ready to rethink the status quo, we can come up with some really interesting ways of helping our kids learn carefully and thoughtfully and effectively.
Yeah, for me, adding on to that, it is a balance, and it's about thinking around pedagogy, curriculum, assessment, the resourcing that wraps around it, the environments that wrap around it, but they need to all be thought through to really think around inclusion for individuals and the cohorts.
Yep.
It is a time, I think, we are reframing our thinking, and I can see us reframing our language. And it is a time where it's testing our mindsets. Which leads into an analogy that I think we've been thinking around for a while. It's not an education one, it's a scientific one. But as adults, we're often thinking that the paradigms and our facts are rigid. And we've grown up thinking things are like that. But inclusive ed is one of those testing points for us, and sometimes a tension point for us. It does retest what our beliefs are and what our thinking is. So, lead us through a bit of a thinking, Stuart, around resetting our minds.
So we went down a bit of a Wikipedia rabbit hole earlier this year. How many planets are there?
Well, I know the answer to this now, but when you asked me a few months ago, it could have been 9, maybe 8, or maybe something else.
And I'm sure that if we ask the audience here, how do you know what the names of the planets are? A lot of them might have some kind of mnemonic device. My very elderly mother just served us 9 pizzas, for example.
Yes.
What if I told you there aren't 9 planets?
Why is my mind being set differently from that? What's happened to test that theory?
When Pluto was discovered in 1930, it was a planet. But in 2006, scientists got together and some of them decided that Pluto isn't a planet anymore.
Why the change? Why did it change from 1930? It was a known fact. 2006, not recognised.
Well, you say not recognised. It was still recognised by some people, but not by everyone.
So was there a tension in this debate about planet to non-planet?
There is so much tension. There were state legislatures that were passing rules saying that Pluto is so still a planet.
I suspect that caused the scientific community some angst, just like, was it resetting minds?
It was definitely resetting minds, and some people were really unhappy with it, and others loved it.
All right, so to nail this, how many planets are there, Stuart?
Currently there are 8.
If we had different criteria?
Could be several hundred.
Oh, goodness gracious. But that's happened in the world of disability, for our children. We had our perceptions of the numbers of students with disability, and it was really around that diagnosis and the label, and we had the term verified with students with disability. But our new mindset is about 1 in 4 students in our classrooms, in our preschools, have adjustments that need to be put in place by our educators, by our ECWs, SSOs and teachers. It's really quite a different mindset about what the teaching practice is about in 2021. I see that as an opportunity. I see it also as a time that it requires us reframing some of our teaching approaches. And so it is a journey that I expect that we'll be on.
I think it's a great opportunity, Ian.
Yeah.
The way that teachers have always been making adjustments for some of their kids is something that we're seeing now is particularly skillful and particularly important. The work that our teachers have been doing for a long time here in South Australia has been really focused on making sure that our children can have their needs met. And I think now as a system we're getting more deliberate about ensuring that no one slips through the gaps and no one gets left behind.
So as we go into our Inclusive Education Expo, think about your mind, your mindset, what's your belief, what are your values? Because I think the presentations are going to add a richness to your thinking, because I always reflect on how my thinking has changed in these 5 years, and what did I believe about disability prior to starting as Disability Director to what I believe now. As you said, it's an exciting journey. It is a journey that needs those multiple points, though, of the system all working in collaboration from the corporate level to the school level to the individual level, that our funding matches the functional needs requirements, that our personalised planning and our personalised adjustments also match. Thank you for your work. As a senior advisor in disability and inclusion, Stuart is available to be contacted if you'd like to go into this in another way, and please do so, because you're on the global. So I hope this work around resetting our mindset really sets the scene for the 2021 Inclusive Education Expo. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest in this area, and best wishes to all our presenters, and hope you find these presentations highly valuable.